Hey everybody, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make a tack that can change colors when you click a button. So we're going to get into some very basic scripting today. Um, and it's really not as scary as a lot of people think it is. A lot of people get really worried that's going to be really hard, but the stuff I'm going to show you guys today, very, very easy. So before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about scripting theory and like why this works, and a little bit about what we're about to do, just so I can get you guys an idea of like how basically all scripting in Roblox works. So first off, basically all scripting is kind of like if you give a mouse a cookie. I don't know if you guys have ever read this beautiful piece of literature right here, but basically it's a very cause and effect book. You give the mouse a cookie, and then the effect is that the mouse goes and tells his friends about it, and then they all want things from you too. So essentially, it's very cause and effect. Um, Something happens, and that causes something else to happen. So the player provides some kind of input, and then what they get is an output. So what it looks like to players in this particular instance, because we're trying to get tack color to change, what it looks like to them is that the cause is that they clicked a button, and then the effect is that the tack color changes. Now all we have to do basically is translate this into Roblox Lua, which is the kind of scripting language that we're using. So if we go over here, this is what it would look like in actual scripting. So we're gonna have to get into a little bit of the logistics here. Computers don't understand cause and effect in this particular way. They have to get a little help from us to understand what this all is. And this looks like a bunch of completely crazy computer jargon, but I will explain all of it um, in just a few minutes. So, but this is basically what I wanted you guys to see, because even though it looks like a bunch of craziness and a bunch of these little, punctuation marks and all this stuff, all this means is just this. So before we do anything else, we really just need some buttons. And because what I'm teaching you guys is largely conceptual today, we're going to go very bare minimum with this. I'm only going to choose a couple of colors because we really don't need that many. But we're going to start with making one button, so that way once everything's done, then we can copy it. And then we don't have like a bunch of buttons that we have to fix if there's any issues along the way. So let's just make a basic square button. We're really not going for anything super crazy. You could make yours literally any shape you wanted. Like if you wanted like a circle button, I've done circle buttons before. Literally any shape, it doesn't matter as long as it's a part, a physical part, and it's clickable. And you want to make sure it's anchored so it doesn't fly around when we get into things. And I think I want this to be a bright green button. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually place this in a group with the horse. That way, if we decide to have two of these horses, basically what this will do is it will enable the script to differentiate between our horse that we're working with and this other horse over here. So that if you click this button on this horse, it directly corresponds to this tack and not this tack. And similarly with this other horse. So we want it to be able to be replicated so we can have as many horses as we want, and they're not going to all change each other's tack. We want it to only affect the horse's own tack. So that's why we'll have it in a group so that the script knows. And we're going to name this part button just so it stands out a little bit. And then I'm going to give it a script and something called a click detector, which is a type of interface. What this basically allows is for the player to click on the button and the script to know when that has happened. So we're going to go into the script, and you can delete this little print hello world. Basically, all this does is when you run the game, in the little output tab down here, which you can open up and view if you don't have it open already, it's probably going to be useful in a few minutes. Open this up, it's going to print this right here. The players can't see it, but sometimes this is useful for debugging purposes. I don't use prints that much, probably because I write kind of rudimentary code. But if you're trying to troubleshoot something, prints are great. I'll explain a little bit of that maybe in another video if you guys want to know about that. But for right now, we don't really need it, so we're going to delete it. Next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to identify the click detector, because the script isn't just going to know that click detector means this down here. So what we need to do is we need to refer to it based on what's called basically a tree. So they have all of these little items in here have kind of like a family tree. So for example, the button is the parent to the click detector, and the click detector is a child of the button. So when we refer to something's parent, we're basically just referring to whatever's over it in the tree. And then this would be the parent's parent. And then the workspace would be the parent's parent's parent. So it just kind of goes like that. And every time we refer to a parent, we just have to put a little dot in between. So basically, our point of reference for everything is the script itself, which is right here. Um, and basically, that means that if you hit script and then parent, we're then referring to the button because the script's parent is the button. And this actually shows in the properties here, the parent is button. So we know what we're referring to the button, but the button isn't what we want. We want the click detector. So we're going to refer to the click detector because if something is inside of something else, we can refer to it directly by name and it will know what we're talking about. Then we're going to make this into a variable. And we're going to call it click. You can call it whatever you want. Variables are not visible to the player in any way. But basically what these do is they make our lives a little bit easier by allowing us to assign values to them and refer to them later as simply click instead of writing all of this out over again. So they're great for saving space in your code. The next thing we're going to need to do is define a function. Basically, a function is what you want to happen. So local function, and we're going to call it change tack color. Basically, what we want to happen when the button is clicked is going to happen in this function. So what we want to happen is we want this saddle pad exactly to change color when the button is clicked. So we're going to go in here and find out where the saddle exactly is in the tree. And it is inside of a model called saddle, which is inside a model called the Clydesdale, which is inside of a larger model that is actually the grandparent of the script. And so now you can see why we have this model thing going on and how I said earlier that we can copy this and paste it as many times as we want, and we don't have to worry about it referring to the wrong one because the parent, the grandparent of the script, will be containing these two things. So all you have to do is go into script.parent.parent. So when we get to the parent of the parent, that's we're talking about the model. Then we go to Clydesdale. And then the next thing we're going to want to refer to is something else inside this Clydesdale, the saddle. And then we're going to refer to the saddle pad. And you can do this with any piece of tech. So yeah, I wanted to change this color of the left stirrup. We could do that too. And as you can see, it's starting to autofill my options over here. If it's not autofilling, chances are you're referring to something that's not there. So if I wanted to refer to, say, the bridle, it's not going to autofill because there's no bridle in the saddle. So we go to saddle pad. And then the next thing we're going to refer to is actually a property of the saddle pad, which is the color. And more specifically, the brick color. So we want to change the brick color of this. So we're going to go to brick color. And then we are going to change this to brick color new bright green. Now, the reason why I have all of this stuff brickcolor.new is because we're actually looking inside of what's called an enum. So basically what scripts have is this like automatic list of all of the colors, the standard colors in the game. All of these, there's a big list of these within Roblox that we can refer to by saying brickcolor.new. Because each color is actually a list of 3 numbers that refer to the color. It's called RGB, basically. And so when we say bright green, the script isn't automatically going to know that we're talking about bright green. It's actually going to think of it more as text instead of a color. It's not going to know that text is a color. So we're actually going to look it up. Basically, this is going to search through the list of colors and then find bright green, and then it will know the numbers of the color because that's what the computer really needs to know is the numbers of the color. Because computers think of things in numbers, not really in colors and text. They mostly think of things in, numbers. So it's easier on the computer if we can search this list, and it's easier on us if there's a pre-built list that we can search. And then the final thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to make it so that when we actually click the button, this is going to happen. Because this is basically saying this is what we want to happen when the button is clicked, but we don't actually have anything here that's actually referring to this change cat color function. There's nothing that's calling this function. So what we want to do is we want to say click dot mouse click, which is called an event. And we're going to want to connect. This will mean that when the button is clicked, it's going to happen right away. And you want to hit change tack color. And as you can see, it's auto-filling. And there you have it. So we're going to give this a try because you always want to test out your code before you release it. It's generally bad practice to do it without testing it first because if anything goes wrong, then all of the players will see your mistake. So it's better to test it yourself, and then if there's any mistakes, you can fix it. So let's give it a run. Oh no, wait, I'm in run mode, my bad. Basically, run is great for if you just want to look at the output of things, but it's not going to help you like with things where a player actually has to go in and click. So we're going to actually switch this to play here. And there we go, now it's actually going to load me in so we can give this thing a whirl. And look at that, it changed our tack color to green. Now if this didn't happen, I'll show you guys a couple of troubleshooting things that you can do to help. So the first thing you're going to want to do is we're going to want to add prints that I was talking about earlier. So print, parentheses, and then we're going to want to put in function ran. Now basically what this is going to do, say you made a mistake here and you know, it's not running the function, right? Then you can go into the output and see, oh, the function was never run. So the problem is not with the color. The problem is not with what's actually supposed to happen, but the problem is that it doesn't know that when the button is clicked, something's supposed to happen. So if you change that, then it should be fixed. Play here. So if that text isn't showing up, you'll know the problem is outside of the function. And now when we click it, you can see in the output function is run. So we know that the function ran. We know that the problem was outside of the function. Now, if the problem was inside of the function, say we just have color dot, and we're just going to make it bright yellow. And that's not the color that we want because it's not the color of the button, obviously, but we're just going to see how this goes. So we click this button here. We know that because function ran is playing that the problem is inside of the function because we're not getting the result we want. Or there could be a bunch of other things happening here. Or probably what's better is to put this before so that if there's an issue like this where say you just put brick color and you've forgotten the new or whatever, something like that, play it here. When we click it, it's running, but it's causing issues because we didn't use the right syntax. Basically what syntax is, it's the way we write it out. So if there's an issue like we're missing punctuation, something's not spelled right, that is a syntax error. So that means that we messed something up in the way we typed things out. But we know that the function was run because we can see in the output that it was working. So we at least know that these parts of the script are working. It's just the inside that's the issue. The next thing I want to show you guys is how we make multiple buttons. Because say we wanted to make, where's this one? Oh, it's like under the map for some reason. Say we wanted to make like a whole ton of these. Like we wanted to have like blue and then we wanted to have and then we want to also be able to change it back into tan. So we add like a tan one. Like you want to have options because there's nothing more fun than having like a huge saddle pad collection. But then when you want to go in and do it, you actually have to go into the script and change every single one to whatever it is. So you gotta go check, and you gotta be like, um, oh, this is the blue button, so we want it to turn to, blue, so you gotta change it. Like, that's annoying, Like, why doesn't, like, if it was more automatic and we didn't have to go in and change every single one, like, every time we added a color, that would be great. So, instead, we're actually gonna change this script so that instead of referring to a brick color in our enum, it's actually going to refer to the color of the button that the script is inside. So that way, every single time, we're always gonna get whatever color the button is as the color of the saddle pad. So we're actually going to go to script.parent.brickcolor. And that way, when we play here, the button should do the same thing, but this time, instead of just referring to a color in an enum, it's actually going to refer to the color of the brick itself. And you don't really see it right now. You don't really see a difference in the way that is working right now, but you take this out and make a whole bunch of these. Yeah, and we always make sure they're all in the model, because if they're not in the model, it's not going to work because they're going to be referred in things that don't exist. Like the parents are going to be all messed up. The tree is going to be all messed up. These out, and if we make them all different colors, like let's make one pink, and then we'll have a blue one. We can have any color we wanted, and then when we go to play, gonna wait for it to load. When we go to play, each of them makes the saddle pad its own color. So we can make as many buttons as we want, and we don't have to do any extra work. Perfect stuff. This is great. You can really do whatever you want with this. Now, suppose we actually wanted to change a different quality about the saddle pad. Say it's not color we want to change, but I don't know, maybe instead we want to change the material. So, pull some of these out. Actually, I'm just going to do one for now, and we're going to make it gray just because then it'll make the material easy to see. And why don't we make our other option? I don't really want fabric. The new fabric texture is giving me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like any of the new texture. Maybe that makes me a bad person. Like, I know they're more realistic, but I can't handle the difference. I'm kind of dumb, so we change the material here, and then if we go inside of this script, maybe instead of changing the color, we're actually going to change the material. Parent that material. And then we're going to make a couple of these. And then we're going to change that material. We're just going to make it things that are really easy to see. Like, no one would actually, I guess no one's stopping you, but I'm just going to make these really easy things to see just to test it out. And then you could change it to more subtle things. But when they're all kind of the same looking, it's really hard to test because then you have to look up really close to be like, oh, did anything actually change? That's why usually a lot of people don't do this, but I mean, if you ever wanted to, you could change the material of it too. So there's really no limits here. You could change whatever you wanted and really make it any property you want. And in our next tutorial, I'll talk to you guys a little bit about changing the transparency of an object, which will allow you to make saddles and bridles and other tack that can come on and off. So you can have a horse with no tack or a horse with tack, or you can actually change between the types of tack. So if you have an all-round horse that can do both Western and English, you can switch between the Western and English saddles. Or a lot of times in the past, I have used it to switch between the type of bit the horse is wearing. So look out for a future tutorial like that, or if you guys have any other ideas for what I should do next as a scripting tutorial, just slap it in the comments and I'll take a look. Have a great day, everybody, and don't forget to vaccinate your horses. And, if you're going riding today, have a good ride.